Hey, hi everybody. Michael DDA here. Thank you for joining me. We are going to try and get through 18 and 19 today. I really feel like 18 and 19 are almost overlapping one another. And almost 19 could have come before 18. But this is the order that we're going to look at it in. Last week, we talked really about two things in particular in 17. We talked about the rock at Horeb. And I have to wonder, did this rock, here it is here, did this rock split in half? I've tried to find a place in Torah where it actually says that the rock split in half when Moses hit it. Is that just a tradition of men? I can't find it. If you can find it, would you send it to me? I've looked and looked, and I just can't find where it split in half. But anyway, he hit the rock, and it provided the water for Israel. The last thing that we talked about was Amalek coming to fight with Israel in Rephidim. Remember, it was the congregation of Israel's seed, which I tend to think is the Ger and the Ezra, with their women and children and servants that make up the congregation of Israel, because we all moved from the wilderness of sin to Rephidim. But today we're going to see that there's going to be another place that Israel's seed is going to go to, called the mountain or the wilderness of Sinai. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. So we did Amalek, and Yehovah gave his position on wiping out Amalek when we get into the land and have a king. He said the king that did not do it was supposed to be cut off from Israel. Makes me wonder, did Saul get cut off from Israel? Wow, that would be pretty severe, wouldn't it? Being cut off from Israel's seed. I mean, that's like being cut off from everlasting life. Oh, that may upset some people, but they don't know. They just don't know. We're going to talk about that right now, in fact. Let's do that. We're going to start in 18 today. And look what it says. Jethro, they call him a priest of Midian, a Kohan of Midian. Here's the word, Kohen of Midian. A priest. Is he a priest? He worked for Pharaoh for a while. We're going to talk about that in a second. But let me finish the verse. Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that Elohim had done for Moses and for Israel, his people. Israel is Yehovah's people. We don't know who Israel is. We confuse Israel, the people, the spiritually born men, with the state of Israel. Don't make that mistake. It's going to throw you off. Israel is Yehovah's people. What did he say? My son, my firstborn is Israel. Let Israel go that he may serve me. Israel serves the Elohim. And he said we were going to serve him at the mountain. That Yehovah had brought Israel out of Egypt. Well, let's talk about this. Here's Yasher. No, you know what? Let's talk about Jethro first. Jethro. Here he's called Jethro. Here he's called Ra'ul often. We're going to see it. Here's a verse. And Israel's seed proceeded from Rephidim. I'm reading on the right here. Proceeded from Rephidim, and they encamped at the wilderness of Sinai. the wilderness of Sinai. We're not in the wilderness of Sinai yet, according to this. But that's why I say 19 and 18 are not necessarily chronological. Encamped in the wilderness of Sinai. This is Israel's seed. This is not the congregation of Israel's seed. This is Israel's seed. We don't know for sure who Israel's seed is. I know that it's the Ezra men, and I'm going to prove it to you here in just a second. It says they proceeded from Rephidim, and they encamped in the wilderness of Sinai in the 3rd month from their going down to Egypt. I think they did it right at the beginning of the month, the 3rd month of the year. At that time, Raul, the Midianite, so you ever calling him Jethro, here they're calling him Raul. We're going to see that oftentimes in Torah. But there's a third name, Hobab. Have you ever heard of Hobab? It says, now Heber the Kenite. Hobab's Heber, the Kenite, Hobab's seed, the father of Moses. Hobab's seed is the father of Moses. Who is the father-in-law of Moses? Raul. Jethro are the father-in-law. So here's yet another one. But now here's another verse in Numbers 10. It says, now Moses said to Hobab, the son of Raul, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law. So is he Raul, or is he the son of Raul? Between those two verses, you can't really figure it out. But there's a Hobab there somewhere, but he might be the son of Raul rather than Raul himself. So does he have 2 names? Does he have 3 names? I don't know. At that time came Raul the Midianite, the father-in-law of Moses, with Zipporah, his daughter, and her 2 sons, for he had heard of the wonders of Yehovah, which he had done to Israel, that he had delivered them from the land of the Egyptians, the hand of the Egyptians. It appears that Raul and chapter 19 events are happening simultaneously. I don't think you can hardly separate them. There's only going to be one place in 18 where it's going to talk about the wilderness of Sinai. Yeah, the wilderness of Sinai. Here it is right here, the wilderness of Sinai. So, priest of Midian, chief of Midian. I can't find in Torah where this word is really translated except as priest or some religious figure, perhaps. In Yasher, it doesn't appear that Raul is talked about as a priest of Midian, just simply a Midianite. Raul the Midianite. How old is this man? Remember, he's Moses' father-in-law. I think he's at least 20 years older than Moses, which puts him, if Moses is 80, it puts him at 100 plus. He's an older man. This is the same man who 80 years before Moses was even born, was a counselor to Pharaoh. Pharaoh had a dream, and Balaam interpreted the dream that it was going to be somebody who was going to rise up in Israel that was going to destroy Egypt. And Raul suggested to the king that he call his counselors. And here's where it picks up. And the king sent and called his 2 counselors. Look at who they are. Raul the Midianite and Job the Uzite. And they came and sat before the king. Then it says, Actually, they gave their, it was Raul who spoke first. And he related a very long treatise on the life of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all the way through to Pharaoh. And he ended by saying this: if it seems good to the king, let him desist from the Hebrews and leave them. Let him not stretch forth his hand against them. For these are they whom Yehovah chose in days of old and took as a lot of his inheritance from amongst all the nations of the earth and the kings of the earth. And who is there and who is there that stretched his hand against them with impunity, of whom their Elohim was not avenged? Yeah, he went through all the things. Everybody was trying to hurt Israel, hurt Abraham, hurt Isaac, hurt Jacob. They all got hurt. But Raul's counsel was, let them go. You cannot fight with Elohim. But here's what Pharaoh said. And when Pharaoh heard the words of Jethro, he was very angry with him, so that he rose with shame from the king's presence and went from Midian, his land, went to Midian, his land, and took Joseph's stick with him. Joseph's stick, it's the rock of Elohim, the rod of Elohim. Yes, he took it, planted it in the garden. Remember, Moses came to him, keeping Moses in jail. He was afraid of the country that he came out of, Cush. So he put him in jail for 10 years for him to die. It was Zipporah who secretly fed Moses, and when they finally released Moses, Moses was the only one who was able to pluck from the garden. Oh, such an interesting story. There's history with this man, Raul. Remember, he is a Midianite. He's a son of Abraham through Keturah. So he knows his family history. Well, we're also talking about Israel. And I wanted to mention, maybe this is not the spot that I wanted to mention it. Moses finally heard that Elohim was at Israel. Who is Israel? You know, we talk about B'nai Israel. Who is B'nai Israel? I've told you before, it's the Ezra men. We become Israel. Remember, Israel, my son, my firstborn is Israel. His firstborn is the second birth. It's a spiritual birth. And we saw in Exodus 12 that the Ger circumcises himself, takes part in the Passover, and becomes the Ezra man. They call him the born in the land man. If we go to, bear with me while we take a little bit of a hiatus. I want to go to Leviticus 23. At the very end of 23, it says this. It says, you shall, nope, I want to start. No, I guess this is where I need to start. 42. We're going to do 42 and 43. You shall dwell in booths. Remember, who are they talking to? He's talking to Israel's seed. You, y'all, shall dwell in booths. Now, the whole of this chapter is about Israel's seed. But look what it says. You shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites. What does that mean, native Israelites? Here it is. Ezra. All the Ezra. All that are Israelites. They shall be seated in protective coverings, in booths. But now, just so we know that we're talking about the same group, Because here they call them native Israelites, that your generation may know that I made Israel's seed dwell in booths. Israel's seed and the native born man, the Ezra man, here he is right here, the Ezra man, is Israel. We didn't get to leave Egypt until we became Israel. You think, oh, Michael, you're just stretching it. Well, let's look one more time. Here's Leviticus 17. Again, down towards the end. Here we're having here. Therefore I said to Israel's seed, B'nai Israel. This is B'nai Israel. I guess I don't have it codified there as the Hebrew. I've got the ger there. But here it says, Israel's seed. Therefore I said to Israel's seed. He always speaks to Israel's seed. No one among you shall eat blood, nor shall any ger who dwells among you eat blood. Here it says, whatever man of Israel's seed or the stranger who dwells with you, who hunts and catches any animal or bird that may be eaten, he shall pour out the blood and cover it with dust. Again, Israel's seed and the stranger. Israel's seed and the stranger. Here it is again. Here now it says, and every person who eats what died naturally or what was torn by beasts, whether he be a native of your country or a stranger. It's replacing the Israel seed with now the Ezra. Look what it is. Here it is. The Ezra. They call it a native of your country. All this they replace with, or all the Ezra is replaced with as a native of your country. So we understand here that we're still talking about Israel and the stranger. Israel and the stranger. Israel and the stranger. The house of Israel and the stranger. The house of Israel and the stranger. Do you see what's happening here? We don't get it because we have learned false ways, traditions, and doctrines of men. And we treat Israel's seed as the children of Israel. I've said it before. When I was a boy, many of the Bible said the men of Israel. That was closer. It wasn't correct, but it was closer because we still didn't understand that the men of Israel were Ezra men. Second born men, spiritually born men, Yehovah's son. We don't get it. So we're going back. I'm going through this because today Yehovah is getting ready. Whoops, I can't do it that way. Yehovah is getting ready to give the 10 Commandments. And he's not speaking to the ladies. He's going to speak to the Ezra men. He's not even speaking to the ger. He's speaking to the Ezra men. We'll see as we go through this today. Sorry for that long hiatus, but I think it's very, very important. We've got to understand this. As I said, Raul's counsel was let them go. Went up with Joseph's stick, the rod of the Elohim's rod, and I put, remember, Yasher. In Yasher, Jethro told Moses not to circumcise Gershom. If he's a priest to Midian, would that make sense that he's going to tell Moses not to circumcise Gershom, his firstborn? Moses circumcised his secondborn, but not his firstborn. And it almost got Moses killed on his way to Egypt. Well, look what's happening now. Verse 2. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' woman, after he had sent her back with her 2 sons, of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been a ger in a foreign land, a no Cree land. And the name of the other was Eleazar, for he said, the Elohim of my father was my help, and he delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. That was when he was 17 that he was delivered from the sword of Pharaoh. But now, this is simply saying that Jethro, when Moses sent her back home, that Jethro took Zipporah and her 2 sons. So now in 15, and Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife to Moses, look what it says, in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of Elohim. Is this the wilderness of Sinai? Or is this still Rephidim? That's the question. We're going to see in the next chapter that Israel's seed is going to move to, what do they call it? I'm on 5. They call it the wilderness of Sinai. In the 3rd month, Israel's seed had gone out of the land of Egypt. After they had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day, they came to the wilderness of Sinai, first day of the 3rd month. Let's go back. Oh, that would have been an easier way to go back. Well, 5. Here we are. We were on 6. Now he had said to Moses, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons with you. I think this is kind of a different thing. First, they're talking about what happened when Moses sent him back. Now there's a message coming to Moses. Now he had said to Moses, I, your father-in-law, Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and 2 sons. I think this is coming through some kind of a messenger. I thought this must be a message that came through a guard. You know, you don't just walk up to Moses in Israel. I'm sure there's people there to protect him and keep him safe. So now look what it says. If he just went up to Moses, how come now Moses is going out to him? So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down and kissed him, and they asked each other about their well-being, and they went into the tent. Where's Zipporah? Didn't he kiss Zipporah? Is she even there right now in the wilderness when Moses is encamped by the mountain of Elohim? Don't confuse the mountain of Elohim with Rephidim. I think it's a different spot altogether. Remember, Moses and the elders of Israel went to the rock at Horeb, leaving Israel behind, and they were the witnesses to him striking the rock and the water coming out. I think the wilderness where Moses is encamped is still between Horeb and the rock and the wilderness of Sinai. The foot of the mountain is basically what we're talking about. And Moses told his father-in-law all Yehovah had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardship that had come upon them on the way, and how Yehovah delivered them. He hadn't heard these stories. Yeah, Israel is Yehovah's male child. The plural he. There's lots of names for Israel that we'll find in the scriptures. Then you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Yehovah, Israel, my son, Yehovah, Israel is my son, my firstborn. It actually doesn't say that. It says Israel, it says my son, my firstborn is Israel. I guess it really doesn't matter very much. We're understanding that's his son. We are his son if we are Ezra men. Jesus is not the only son. He's an Ezra man, if anything. If he existed, I think he's a creation of the Catholic Church, personally. The golden calf. To turn men away from Yehovah. It says, then Jezreel rejoiced for all the good which Yehovah had done for Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hands of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, blessed be Yehovah, who has delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. You know, when Moses told Raul that he was going to go to Egypt right after the burning bush experience, he took his wife and his kids, and they were on their way. That's when Moses sent Zipporah and the boys back. But I'm sure that Pharaoh or that Raul was saying to himself, yeah, right. I know what the Egyptians are like. I know how powerful they are. And you think you're going to take them out from underneath the hand of the Egyptians? It had to be going through his mind. Well, now he's finding out that in fact it did. She says, now I know that Yehovah is greater than all the Elohim. All the Elohim. You know, this is very interesting. Now I know that Yehovah is greater than all the gods, all the Elohim. This is one of the few places in the scriptures where the Elohim is referring to the Elohim of the land. This is the quantitative plural, instead of what we usually see is the qualitative plural, referring to the Elohim on the mountain. Look what it says. Now I know. You know, did he know that Yehovah was greater? And now he really knows it? You know, I think sometimes you can know something, but not really know it. Now he knows it. Now I know that Yehovah is greater than all the Elohim. Quantitative, quantitative, not qualitative. For in the very thing which they behaved proudly, he was above them. You know, when we talk about the gods, a lot of people, because they got this word God in their mind, they think about idols, statues, stone, wood, metal. But they don't behave proudly. It says he was above them. Everything that they tried to do to Moses and Israel's seed, Yehovah overruled them. But Raul knows firsthand how wicked these rulers and judges are. Yeah, he lived there. He lived there. He knows. It says, then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, they always refer to Jethro as Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering, one burnt offering, and other sacrifices to offer to Yehovah, or to Elohim. No, actually, I guess it does say Elohim. The next one is going to say the Elohim. You know, this word sacrifices is translated as Here it is. Zavik, slaughters. This is food. When we slaughter something, it's going to be for food. We don't slaughter the burnt offering. We kill the burnt offering, and then it's completely burnt up to Yehovah. But the slaughters, we eat. The Passover slaughter, we eat. The Shalamim, we eat. What was the one here? They call it sacrifices. Yeah, no, this is slaughters to Yehovah. They say to offer to Yehovah. No, it's not there. It's made up. Sacrifice slaughters to Yehovah. Remember, Jethro is Moses' father-in-law. They're at Mount Sinai. When Jethro was keeping, when Moses was keeping Jethro's flocks, one of them wandered up to the mountain. It's there that Moses met with Yehovah. Where was I going to go with that? Oh, so if he's offering burnt offerings and slaughters, where's he getting them? He brought them with him when he brought Zipporah and the kids. He has lots of flocks. He's providing food for Israel, for the elders of Israel anyway. And look what it says. And Moses came with the elders of Israel to eat bread. They say bread with Moses. No, they were eating the meat that he just brought. Lechem is food. This is the word that they're using right here. Lechem. Lechem isn't necessarily bread. I mean, bread is food. But the bread that we're talking about here, lechem, is the meat that we just slaughtered. We're going to have a party. I'd like to know how many elders there was. You know, we talk about these elders. We talked about the elders going up with Moses to watch him hit the rock at Horeb. We saw the elders now eating the meat. How many elders were there? Was it just 12? One for each tribe, or 13? One for each tribe? Remember, we have 13 tribes, not 12 tribes, because Ephraim and Manasseh took the place of Joseph. So now there's 13. Let me finish that verse. And Aaron came with the elders of Israel, Israel's elders, to eat bread, eat meat with Moses. Moses' father-in-law, before the Elohim. Before the Elohim. Remember, we're in the wilderness of Sinai. Before the Elohim. Now, we're going to see that it's only going to be men at Sinai. You know what? I think I passed that up, and I want to just review that again, just briefly. Where is it? Must be before that. Yeah, here. Look what it says. And Aaron came to Moses to the wilderness where he was encamped, where was the mountain of Elohim. And Moses went forth to meet his father-in-law with great honor, and all Israel's seed was with him. And Reuel and his sons remained among the Israelites for many days. Where's Zipporah? She must have been escorted back down the mountain to Rephidim. In the third month, Israel's seed, after Israel's seed, and in the third month from Israel's seed's departure from Egypt, on the 6th day thereof, Yehovah gave Israel the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai. This is only men who are there. We're going to see it today. Within a very short time here. Where do we leave off? The Elohim. Jethro's sacrifices. And so it was on the next day that Moses said to judge the people. Now we've had a scene change. And the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. Can you see what's going on in your mind? Moses is seated, and this huge line of people are coming to Moses for judgments. What do we do if we do this? Or he did that to me. What should we do? He is arbitrating for all these people. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he said, what is this thing which you are doing for the people? Why do you sit alone? Why do you alone sit? And all the people stand before you from morning until evening. All day long he's doing this. Every day. Remember, Jethro's got some wisdom. He had some wisdom. That's why he was a counselor to Pharaoh, because he was a wise man. I don't think he was a priest, but he was a wise man. And Moses said to his father-in-law, because the people come to me to inquire of Elohim. I don't want to go through that. Let's go to the next verse. When they have difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one and another. And I make known the statutes of the Elohim and his laws. Does it bother you as much as it bothers me that they leave out the definite article in these verses? I really dislike that. Nancy, I'm so glad to see that you're here. Sim, I see you're here also. Great. Make known the statutes of the Elohim and his laws. So Moses, the father-in-law, said to him, so Moses' father-in-law said to him, the thing which you do is not good. Look at this. He's criticizing Moses. And I think rightfully so. He's not fulfilling the responsibility that he has. But Jethro understood that Moses could not fulfill his calling without help. No, you can't do it alone. So Moses, his father-in-law, said to him, the thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people who are with you will surely wear yourselves out. For this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform by yourself. Listen now to my voice. I will give you counsel, and Elohim will be with you. Stand before the Elohim for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to the Elohim. What does my note here say? No, just Elohim, the Elohim, the Elohim. They had it translated right here. Translated it wrong both places, both of these places. He says, and you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them. Nancy, you got to turn off your mic, baby. Thank you. And you shall show them the way which they shall walk, and the work they must do. Look what he says. Teach the people, you shall teach them the law, the statutes and the laws. The statutes and the laws. And show them the way which they must walk and work, and the work they must do. Moreover, You shall select from all the people. Who are the people that we're talking about? Israel's seed is the people that we're talking about. You shall select from all the people able men, such as fear Elohim, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to rule, to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10s. Oh, so interesting. Look at this. I put Jethro realizes. Oh, first of all, men. We're talking about men. Able men. Here it is. Emet, men. Enoshim. Well, it's Enoshi. It would be Enoshim. They're men, Enoshim, but when they have able men, they're now Enoshi. Emet. Jethro realizes that speedy justice is instrumental to keeping peace. Oh, this is so good. I think we're coming into a world that's going to have this contentment and order among the people. Therefore, it is expedient to appoint numerous judges to hear the small disputes and allow Moses to dedicate himself to seeking the will of the Redeemer. These are the higher authorities that Paul talks about in Romans 13. You know, it always talks about be submissive to the higher authorities. And in our false understandings, we think it's the governments of men, not realizing that he was talking to the Romans, telling them to follow the higher authorities. It was in the synagogue, which was where the higher authorities were at, not in the government of Rome. No, we've learned lies. You know, that was one of the first things on my journey to understanding Yehovah as a kingdom, Yehovah's kingdom on earth. That was one of the biggest things that I had to hurdle. I had to get past because I thought the New Testament was the word of Elohim. Now I know that the New Testament came from the Catholic Church to control the world. And most of you are controlled by the world. You think you're supposed to be submissive to the authorities, not knowing who the authorities are. We've learned lies. So here we have 600,000 men. Remember, we came out 600,000 men, 600,000 Gebarim. Plus the mixed multitude. The mixed multitude is the Ger who dwells with us. But the Ger don't go to Moses. The women don't go to Moses. The children don't go to Moses. The servants don't go to Moses. They all go to Israel, their man. Remember, you have Israel and the Ger who dwells with you. The Ger goes to you to learn the ways of Yehovah. But here we are appointing rulers of thousands. That means we're going to need 600 rulers of thousands. Rulers of hundreds. 600 rulers of thousands. Now we're going to need hundreds, 6,000 rulers of hundreds. Twice that for rulers of 50. And 5 times that. 4 times that. 5 times that for rulers of 10. I think this is so interesting because if you're a ruler of 10, this goes back to our court system. You know, the court systems that we have today. Yeah, we have lower courts, higher courts, mid courts. But they're not equitable. They're not just. They don't know you. A ruler of 10 would know all the men that he's the ruler over, wouldn't he? And this is why in our Constitution, and I'm Yehovah's man. My statutes and judgments and ordinances are in Torah. But in the Constitution, we are told that we are supposed to have, what's the word I want to use? A jury trial. And a jury trial is let me just say that you won't get a jury trial if you go to court. You're going to get a trial by jury. Oh, they trick you every time. A birth certificate and a date of birth and a birth date. Two different things. We don't know it. We've been lied to. Well, a jury trial and a trial by jury are two different things. You won't get a jury trial if you go to court right now in the land. You may later, but you won't now. I did a search for jury trial versus trial by jury. Many of them will say a jury trial is a trial by jury. Liar, liar, pants on fire. They'll say a jury trial and a trial by a judge are the two opposing things. Liar, liar, pants on fire. They hide the jury trial. I went to Yandex. Here it is. I went to Yandex. I tried searching Google. What a waste of time. Couldn't even find what a jury trial was. But I found it here in Yandex. This is the 6th page. After 5 pages, they made me identify myself as a real person. But I finally found what I was looking for on the 6th page. Here it is, the jury trial. Look what it says. This is United States Constitution, constitutional amendment. That is 6.4. I don't know what that is for. It says a right to jury trial is granted for criminals. No. Is that the one I want? Yeah. It granted to criminal defendants in order to prevent oppression by the government. Do you hear that? That's what a jury trial is. Now, here is the jury trial. That was in here. I had it right here. I've got it highlighted. It says a jury is a group of peers that are sworn to give a verdict in a legal matter based on the testimony presented at the trial. Do you hear what it says? A jury is a group of one's peers. If you go to a trial by jury, they're going to pick all the people who have signed up to be jurors and come in on that day, and they're going to get every person that they think is going to possibly find you guilty and take them out of the jury. Because they want to find you guilty. They don't want to find you innocent. And these are not peers. They don't know you at all. And if they have anything in common with you, they're out of there. They're out of there. So having rulers of tens goes right back to a jury of your peers. Do you understand that? It's so important. It provides for righteousness and equity and justice in the camp. I love it. Moses doesn't know these men. But the rulers of 10, they know these men, don't they? Oh, I think it's really beautiful. Good advice, Raul, Jethro, and let them judge the people at all times. And it will be that every great matter that they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden for you. And if you do this thing, As Elohim so commands. Look at that. As Elohim so commands. Does he know Elohim that he can even say as Elohim commands? He's a wise man. I put Moses has a better day, and the people receive equity and justice in a timely manner and get back to their families sooner. This reminds me of the jury trial, which should not be confused with a trial by jury. Yeah, we've been tricked. Oh, jury trial. You know, in many of these links that I had, a jury trial is a trial by jury. No, it's not. They're liars. Well, let me continue. So Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he said. And Moses chose able men out of Israel, out of all Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, rulers of 10. All men. So they judged the people at all times. The hard cases they brought to Moses, and they judged every small case themselves. Doesn't that just make sense? Look at here. This says, and you shall teach them the statutes and the laws, and show them the way which they shall walk, and the work that they must do. He's talking about the able men. This is what a father does for his sons and his sons' sons. Deuteronomy 6, it says, and these words which I command you today shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently to your sons, and you shall talk of them when you sit in the house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. This is why we teach our sons and our sons' sons the ways of Yehovah, so when they grow old, they'll know the way to go. And he's teaching these men, you know, this advice from Raul, it had some work to be done, because you don't just give it to them people. You have to teach them the statutes and the laws and show them the way which they must walk and the work which they must do. That takes training. And so Moses is now going to dedicate himself to training these men and appointing these rulers. Very beautiful. So they judged the people at all times. In the hard cases they brought to Moses. Every small case themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way to his own land. So Moses, Raul, is not going to be in the wilderness of Sinai before the mountain of the Elohim when the Ten Commandments are given. Why not? Because he's not an Israelite. He may not even be circumcised. Well, that's not good for a priest of Midian, I don't think. So let's go to 19. I realize I'm probably going a little bit long today. Sorry about that. This is important. In the third month, after Israel's seed had gone out of the land of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. And they departed Rephidim. I'm sorry, for they had departed from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai. Here we are, we're in the wilderness of Sinai. These men are now joining Moses. Moses was already in the wilderness of Sinai. So in the last chapter. So now the men, Israel's seed, are going to depart from Rephidim and come to the wilderness of Sinai and camp in the wilderness. So Israel camped there before the mountain. There's agreement here, on this part at least, and Israel's seed proceeded from Rephidim, and they came and encamped in the wilderness of Sinai on the third month from their going forth from Egypt. And in the third month, after Israel's seed had gone out of Egypt, on the same day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. You know, it says on the third month. I don't think they've been in the wilderness for the third month. I think what they're saying on the third month after they came out of Egypt. In other words, in month 3 after they came out of Egypt. They came out of Egypt at month 1.5. The second month, they got the manna in the wilderness, and now here we are at the third month. And they departed from Rephidim and came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. I said that. Israel's seed. So Israel camped before the mountain. And Moses went to the Elohim and called him. And the Elohim called to him from the mountain. Look at that. And Moses went up. Moses is going to go up 3 times in this chapter to Elohim and come down 3 times. And Moses went up to the Elohim. And Yehovah called to him from the mountain, saying, thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell Israel's seed. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians. What does my note say here? I guess I got that. You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. In this chapter, I made all Israel, the you, the plural you, Jacob. It's all in blue, so you understand that is Israel's seed that we're talking about. Bore you on eagle's wings. Where do they fly above the storm? You weren't in the storm, you flew above the storm. When the plagues came on Israel, first 3, you were in it. But after that, you were above the storm. They didn't affect you. When the sons of Pharaoh died, you didn't die because you kept the Passover. You were Israel. He says, you have seen, I guess I read that. Now, therefore, if you remember, this is still Elohim talking to Moses. This is not Elohim talking to Israel's seed. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenants, then you shall be a special treasure, a segula to me above all people of the earth. For all the earth is mine. Remember, we were those people that were pulled out from among the nations to join Yehovah. I was pulled out from the United States to follow Yehovah and become his Ezra man. I put the primary meaning of the word is the designation as a unique possession. Elohim has made Israel his unique possession. Israel holds a special position among the peoples of the earth, although all who dwell in it belong to Yehovah. You know, they're Yehovah's whether they like it or not. They won't obey him, most of them. So special treasure. Here it says precious stone, jewel, segula. Here's the segula right here. Segula. That's the same word, segula, special treasure, precious stone. This does not leave his presence. He keeps it close at all times. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, we did it once at Passover, but we need to continue, then you shall be a special treasure to me above all the people, for all the people of the earth are mine. This is the verses we're just going through. I don't want to read it again. What do we have here? You are a holy people. This is Deuteronomy 14. You are a holy people to Yehovah, your Elohim. And Yehovah has chosen you to be a people for himself, a segula, above all the peoples of the face of the earth. So many people think they are Yehovah's people, and they haven't a clue on how to become Yehovah's people. I'm trying to open your minds and break down the doctrines and traditions of men. A woman is not going to be an Ezra man. A woman, I think. No, I'm not even going to say that. Because I think. I don't want to put that in your head. But a woman can't be an Ezra man. She can belong to an Ezra man. She can be bone of a man's bone and flesh of a man's flesh of an Ezra man. But she'll never be an Ezra woman. There are no Ezra women. Last verse I had, the earth is Yehovah's and all its fullness, the world and those who dwell in it. I bet it doesn't say world, I bet it says the earth and all who dwell in it. I've gotten world out of my vocabulary as best I can. 19. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. They're talking about the Ezra men. Israel's seed is going to be a kingdom of priests. Isn't that, in a sense, what the rulers of thousands and hundreds and fifties and tens doing? Being a priest, in a sense, to the men who are underneath them? I think so. A holy nation. Deuteronomy 10 talks about what great nation is this that has such statutes and judgments. All the world is going to be in envy to them because there's such righteous judgments. These are the words which you shall speak to Israel's seed. So now, after he's gone through this litany of stuff, Moses is going to go back down. And he called the elders of the people. He's not talking to all the people. Doesn't have a microphone. He's talking to the elders. He's going to disseminate the information from the elders and probably lesser elders until everybody gets the message. So Moses came and called the elders of the people and laid before them all these words which Yehovah had commanded them. Commanded him. All the words which Yehovah commanded him. Now he's going to give it to the people. And all the people answered together. Who's the people? Are these all the Israelites, or are these just the elders? I don't know. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yehovah has spoken, we will do. So now, look what it says. So Moses brought back the words of the people to Elohim. They said they were going to do it. And Yehovah said to Moses, behold, I come to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear when I speak to you and believe you forever. So Moses told the words of the people to Yehovah. All that you said we will do. But isn't it interesting that that Yehovah is going to speak directly? It says Yehovah speaks to Moses, and we are to believe him. Let me read it again. And Yehovah said to Moses, behold, I come to you in a thick cloud, that the people may hear. The people may hear when I speak to you. Have the people ever heard Yehovah speak directly to Moses and Moses speak directly to Yehovah? Not yet. We're going to see that here in 19. Just 10 more verses. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded and became louder and louder, Moses spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. Whoa, that's pretty impressive, wouldn't you say? My goodness. Thank Yehovah. Then Yehovah said to Moses, go to the people and consecrate them. He's basically saying, go back down to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow. And let them wash their clothes. I think he's gone up to the mountain on the first day of the month. And they got 2 more days of the month. It says, and let them wash their clothes. And let them be ready for the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day, Yehovah will come down upon Mount Sinai on the 3rd day. That's what it said in Torah, that he gave the commandments on the 3rd day. In the sight of the people. You shall set bounds for the people. all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up the mountain or touch the base. How do you know where the base begins? I don't know how that works. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. I think you just make sure that you stay far enough away that you don't get caught. Shall surely be put to death. Look what it says. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot. Got to kill him from a distance with an arrow, whether man or beast. Adam, no, actually, I think this was Ish. Yeah, Ish or Behema, man or beast. Why do they have to be shot? Because they're unclean. When they touched the mountain, they became unclean. So if they touch the men, I think the men are going to become unclean as well. We're going to see this when we talk about women here in just a little bit. Well, actually, just a couple more verses. They had to shoot him. Leave him there. So Moses went down from the mountain. Here he is, going down from the mountain. This is the second time he's come down to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, listen, what he's going to say. Be ready for the third day. Do not come near, they said, your wives. Your wives? What are they talking about? No, look what it actually says. Do not come near a woman. What does that tell you? If he's talking to Israel's seed and he says, do not come near a woman, can there be women there? Is there women among Israel's seed? No. Do not come near a woman. They want to say your wives. They make it sound like you're having sex with your wife. No, that's not what we're talking about. Do not go near a woman. You don't know if she's in her menses or not. Look what it says, Leviticus 15. I think this makes it very clear. I'm reading right here. Also, when a woman lies with a man, and there is an emission of semen, they shall bathe in the water and be unclean till evening. If a woman has a discharge, this is what we're talking about, most importantly, the menses, and the discharge from her body is blood, she shall be set apart 7 days. And whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. You can't come before Yehovah if you're unclean. Tameh. Everything that she lies on during impurity, well, first of all, whoever touches her shall be unclean until evening. Everything that she lies on during her impurity shall be unclean. Also, everything that she sits on shall be unclean. Whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe in water and be unclean until evening. This is all about not touching a woman because you don't know if she's in her menses. Zipporah had to go down. She's still in her menses. And look what it says. This is different translations. BBE is Bible in Basic English. And he said to the people, be ready on the third day. Do not come near a woman. It doesn't say anything about wives. There's no word for wife in Torah, you guys. We got to understand that. A wife is, if there is even a wife is his woman or her man. Maybe that's a bad way to say it, her man, because that would be the ish. His woman, thy woman, his woman, thy woman, your woman. That's a wife, if anything. And that may be a servant. That may be a concubine. That may be a slave. Well, I said servant, a female servant. Still his woman. Here it is, Complete Jewish Bible. Complete Jewish Bible? That doesn't sound right. It is Complete Jewish Bible. And he said to the people, be ready on the third day. Do not come near a woman. Don't approach a woman. Be ready on the third day. Do not approach a woman. highlighted wrong. Do not come near a woman. They all say the same thing. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. Then it came to pass on the third day, in the morning, that there were thunderings and lightning and a thick cloud on the mountain. And the sound of the trumpet was very loud, so that all the people who were in the camp trembled. All the males that were in the camp trembled. All Israel's seed trembled. It says third day. Yasher says, and on the third month from the children of Israel departure from Egypt. On the sixth day thereof, Yehovah gave Israel the 10 commandments. So was it the third day? Was it the 10th or the sixth day? Honestly, I think it's closer to the sixth day. And I say that because I think it's closer within a day of Shavuot. And I think it makes sense that Yehovah gave his commandments on Shavuot. I've got a worksheet that I worked out. I'm not going to put that before you. I think I've shown it to you one other time in this class. The camp trembled. The mountain shook. Sound of a trumpet. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet with the Elohim. And they stood at the foot of the mountain. Didn't go on the mountain, stood at the foot of the mountain. Guess he showed them where the foot was. To meet the Elohim. Now Mount Sinai was completely in smoke, because Yehovah descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. Do you think, how long was this quake? Was it throughout the earth? Was it just a local quake? I guess it was probably a local quake. And when the blast of the trumpet sounded, look what it says. And became louder and louder. Moses spoke, and Elohim answered him by voice. Yehovah is talking to Moses in the sight of the people. Is that going to build credibility for Moses? I think so. Then Yehovah came down upon Mount Sinai, on top of the mountain. And Yehovah called Moses to the top of the mountain. And Moses went up. Here he is. Now he's going up a third time. Still haven't done the 10 Commandments. That's still coming. And Moses said, and Yehovah said to Moses, go down to the people, lest they break through to gaze at Yehovah, and many of them perish. You can't watch Yehovah. You can't see him. Look what it says here. When they're talking about they, unless they break through, a third person masculine plural. That's the verb that they're using. These are men. But he said, this is 33:20, but he said, you cannot see my face, talking to Moses, for no man can see me and live. He wants them to warn the people. Also let the priests, now this is weird, also let the priests who come near Yehovah consecrate themselves, lest Yehovah break out against them. The priests? Who are the priests? And when do they consecrate themselves? They don't consecrate themselves to the end of Exodus. The last couple chapters is when they're going to get consecrated. So why does he say, and let the priests who come near to Yehovah consecrate themselves, lest Yehovah break out against them? Is this something for the future? Maybe. Where do the priests come from? I guess we do have priests. Remember, Levites are priests. We already saw that. Oh, I put remember. We already saw that the Levites never worked for Pharaoh when we were in Egypt. All the other tribes, they worked for Pharaoh. Levites didn't. Well, look what it says in Yasher 36. This was written after Reuben went into Bilhah, his stepmom's, Rebekah's handmaid, and defiled himself and her. And because he was mad, because he wanted, Moses was sleeping with Bilhah instead of sleeping with Leah, his mother. So he was mad. And I think he thought that if he could profane Bilhah, that Moses would sleep, or Jacob would sleep with Leah, his mom. So look what it says. At that time, the portion of the birthright, I think it was really the Melchizedek blessing, king, priest, and birthright, double birth or double portion. At that time, the portion of the birthright, together with the kingly and the priestly offices, was removed from the sons of Reuben. He had the birthright, for he had profaned his father's bed, and the birthright was given to Joseph. Remember, that's why there's two extra tribes in Israel. Jacob adopted Joseph and Manasseh as his own, just like Reuben and Judah, he said. And the kingly portion, kingly office to Judah, and the priesthood to Levi. There's the priesthood right there. They are the priests, because Reuben had defiled his father's bed. So we do have some priests. They're not going to be made official until later. I think we're going to see, I know we're going to see, that the firstborn were originally supposed to be the priests, but Yehovah decided to make the priests the sons of Levi instead. 23. But Moses said to Yehovah, the people cannot come up Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, set bounds around the mountain and consecrate it. Yes, he did. So why is he talking about the priests coming before Yehovah? Yeah, I think Moses is confused. I'm confused. Then Yehovah said to him, away, get down and then come up. Go down, go up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come to Yehovah, lest he break out against them. Well, that contradicts what we just read in verse 22, doesn't it? Because he's talking about the priests come near to Yehovah, and now he's saying, don't let them come near Yehovah. The priests are the Levites, and the Kohanim, the Kohanim, the priests. Here in JPS, Jewish Publishing, what was it? JPS, probably it's not that important. No, I guess it's down at this end. Jewish Publication Society Bible, JPS. And Yehovah said to him, go. This word bothered me. It said, away. It's like you're being dismissed. Away. I guess go sounds better. Go, get thee down. Thou shalt come up. Thou shalt come up. And thou shalt come up. Thou and Aaron with thee. But let not the priests and the people break through to come up unto Yehovah, lest he break forth against them. All right, we're almost done. Last verse. No, we're going to do a little bit more. So Moses went down. He's now back down to the people. Then went down to the people and spoke to them. Well, we don't know what he spoke. It doesn't say. From here, I have just one short thing that I'd like to cover, and that is in Yasher. We just finished 18 and 19, and now we're going to have this short portion in Yasher. Notice that it doesn't talk about Raul being a priest of Midian. It just says he's Midianites. And Israel's seed proceeded from Rephidim, just Israel's seed, and they encamped in the wilderness of Sinai in the 3rd month from their going down to Egypt. They left their families behind. They've gone up to where Moses is at. At that time, Reuel the Midianite, the father-in-law of Moses, with Zipporah and his daughter and her 2 sons, for he had heard of the wonders. At that time came Reuel the Midianite, the father-in-law of Moses, with Zipporah, his daughter, and her 2 sons. They call him her 2 sons. For he had heard of the wonders of Yehovah, which he had done for Israel, that he had delivered them from the hand of Egypt. And Reuel came to Moses in the wilderness, and he encamped where was the mountain of Elohim. And Moses went forth to meet his father-in-law with great honor, and all Israel with him. And Reuel and his sons, Moses' sons, remained among the Israelites for many days. Doesn't say Zipporah was there, and they can't have a woman in the camp. She must have gotten escorted back. And Reuel knew Yehovah from that day forward. Isn't that interesting? Now I know. Reuel knew Yehovah from that day forward. Did he know Yehovah? And now he really knows Yehovah? I thought I knew the Lord at one time in my life. And I finally realized I didn't know Yehovah. But now I know Yehovah. I know what makes him happy. I know what makes him sad. I know what he delights in. I know what makes him angry. I know Yehovah. And in the 3rd month from Israel's seed departure from Egypt, on the 6th day thereof, Yehovah gave Israel the 10 commandments on Mount Sinai. This is all it says about the 10 commandments in Yasher. And all Israel heard these commandments, and all Israel rejoiced exceedingly in Yehovah on that day. What did it say in Torah? They were fearful. Oh no, don't. All that you say we will do, but don't talk anymore. And the glory of Yehovah rested upon Mount Sinai, and he called to Moses, and Moses came in the midst of the cloud and ascended the mountain. I think this is what we were just seeing. Yehovah spoke to Moses, and he said, come up. And that's what we were just seeing, Moses coming up. All right, well, we're going to stop here. The next thing we're going to talk about is the 10 Commandments. Who is he giving the 10 Commandments to? We already know it's Israel's seed, the Ezra men, his son. Well, I think you're going to be surprised at what you hear about the 10 Commandments next week. We've learned lies, worthless and unprofitable things. Well, we're going to stop here. You guys, thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next time. Bye now.